Listen to me carefully right now. This is not an ordinary moment, and these are not ordinary words. If your heart is still beating, if your eyes are still open, if your soul still has breath within it, then you need to hear this truth with absolute clarity. God is very happy with you today, not tomorrow, not when you become better, not when you fix everything that feels broken. Today, right now, in this moment, God's pleasure is resting upon you, and if you allow this truth to enter your spirit, it will change the way you stand, the way you speak, the way you pray, and the way you walk into your future. So many people wake up every day carrying invisible weights on their shoulders. They think God is disappointed with them. They think God is waiting to punish them, waiting to point out their failures, waiting to remind them of how far they still have to go. They look at their mistakes and assume that God sees only weakness. They look at their struggles and believe God has turned away. But hear this with your whole being. God is not staring at your flaws today. God is not measuring you by your past today. God is looking at your heart, and God is pleased. You may ask, how can God be happy with me when I'm still struggling? How can God be pleased when I still fall short? And that question reveals how deeply the wrong picture of God has been planted in the human heart. God does not rejoice because you are perfect. God rejoices because you belong to Him. God does not delight because you never fail. God delights because you keep coming back. God does not smile because you have everything figured out. God smiles because your heart still reaches toward Him, even when you are confused, tired, or wounded. There is a powerful truth you must understand. God sees effort where you see failure. God sees sincerity where you see weakness. God sees growth where you see delay. When you wake up and try again, God is happy. When you fall and still whisper His name, God is happy. When you choose not to give up, even though your strength feels small, God is happy. You underestimate how much your perseverance delights Him. You underestimate how much your quiet faith moves His heart. Many people believe God only celebrates the loud victories, the public success, the visible achievements. But God is very attentive to the hidden battles. God is watching the tears you never show anyone. God is watching the prayers you struggle to finish. God is watching the moments when you choose hope, even though despair feels closer. And in those moments, God's heart is full of joy toward you. Today, God is not demanding more from you. God is not accusing you. God is not standing far away with crossed arms. God is near, and His pleasure surrounds you. When God looks at you today, He sees courage. He sees obedience that may not be perfect, but is real. He sees a heart that refuses to fully surrender to darkness, and that brings Him joy. You must understand this deeply. God's happiness with you is not fragile. It does not disappear every time you stumble. It does not vanish when you have a bad day. It is rooted in His love, not in your performance. When you wake up tired but still choose to live with integrity, God is happy. When you resist bitterness even though you have been hurt, God is happy. When you forgive, even if your emotions lag behind your decision, God is happy. There are people listening right now who feel like they have disappointed God beyond repair. They replay their mistakes again and again, thinking they have exhausted God's patience. But God's patience is not like human patience. God's mercy does not run out because you struggled too long. God's joy over you is not erased by one more failure. God knows your frame. God understands your journey. God sees how far you have come, even if you are focused on how far you still need to go. God is very happy with you today because you did not quit. You may have thought about giving up. You may have felt overwhelmed. You may have felt unseen. But you are still here. You are still breathing. You are still listening. And that alone is a testimony of God's sustaining grace in your life. God is happy because His hand has kept you, even when you didn't realize it. When God is happy with you, it does not mean your life will suddenly become free of challenges. It means you will face those challenges with divine favor surrounding you. God's pleasure creates strength where there was weakness. God's pleasure creates clarity where there was confusion. God's pleasure creates peace in the middle of storms. When you know God is pleased with you, fear loses its authority over your heart. So many people are afraid to approach God because they think He is angry, but God is inviting you closer today, not pushing you away. God's happiness with you is an invitation, not a reward. It is an open door, not a distant promise. When you come before God today, come boldly. Lift your head, straighten your posture. You are not coming as a condemned person. You are coming as one who is loved. Let this truth reshape your prayers. Stop praying as if you are begging for attention. Stop praying as if you must convince God to care. God already cares. God already sees. God already delights in you. Pray with confidence. Speak with assurance. God listens to you with joy, not irritation. God receives your words with affection, not impatience. God is happy with you because your life still has purpose. Even if you feel behind, even if you feel overlooked, even if your dreams seem delayed, God has not canceled His plan for you. God does not abandon what He begins. The joy God feels toward you today is connected to what He is still unfolding through you. Your story is not finished. Your impact is not complete. Your assignment is still active. There's something powerful about understanding that God is happy with you right now. It heals shame. It silences the voice of accusation. It breaks the cycle of self-hatred. When you realize that God is pleased, you stop punishing yourself for every mistake. You stop living in fear of rejection. You begin to walk with freedom. God is not embarrassed by you. God is not apologizing for you. God is not hiding you away. God is proud of the work He is doing in you, even if it is still in progress, even if it is messy, even if it is slow. God sees the final outcome and He smiles. You must reject the lie that says you are only valuable when you succeed. Your value is not earned, it is given. God's happiness with you today is proof that you are already accepted. This acceptance is not permission to live carelessly. It is empowerment to live boldly. When you know you are loved, you dare to grow. When you know God is pleased, you dare to obey. Some of you have been living with spiritual exhaustion because you're always trying to prove yourself. You try to pray harder, work harder, be better, hoping that one day God will finally be satisfied. But God is saying to you today, I am already happy with you. Rest in my pleasure. Let my joy be your strength. God's happiness with you does not ignore your need to grow. It fuels it. God's pleasure is not complacency, it is confidence in what He is shaping. Just as a parent delights in a child who is learning to walk, even when they stumble, God delights in you as you grow. Each attempt matters, each step matters, each return matters. Today God is smiling over your faith, even if it feels small. God is pleased with your desire, even if your actions are still catching up. God is happy because your heart has not turned cold. God is happy because you still care. God is happy because you still seek truth. God is happy because you still listen. There are seasons when you feel unseen by people, seasons when your efforts are unnoticed, seasons when your sacrifices go unrecognized. But hear this clearly, God sees everything. God misses nothing. And God's happiness with you is not delayed until applause comes. God's approval does not depend on human recognition. When you internalize this truth, it changes how you face tomorrow. You no longer wake up afraid of failing God. You wake up aware that God is walking with you. You move with peace instead of panic. You take responsibility without condemnation. You correct your course without losing hope. God is very happy with you today because His love is active in your life. His grace is sustaining you. His wisdom is guiding you. Even when you feel lost, God knows exactly where you are. Even when you feel weak, God's strength is already at work within you. Let this truth settle deeply into your soul, not as a temporary encouragement, but as a foundation. You are not tolerated by God. You are delighted in. You are not a burden to God. You are a joy. When you speak to Him, He listens attentively. When you cry, He draws near. When you rejoice, He rejoices with you. God's happiness with you today is not based on comparison. You are not measured against anyone else. Your journey is uniquely yours. Your pace is known by God. Your struggles are understood by God. Your victories, both small and great, are celebrated by God. If you have been carrying guilt, release it. If you have been living under shame, let it go. God is not holding it over your head. God is inviting you forward. Today is not about condemnation. It is about restoration. Today is not about regret. It is about renewal. When you leave this moment, carry this truth with you. Let it shape your decisions. Let it guard your heart. Let it give you courage. God is very happy with you today. And that happiness is not fragile. It is steady. It is faithful. It is rooted in His unchanging nature. God's joy over you is a powerful force. It lifts you when you are weary. It steadies you when you are uncertain. It strengthens you when you feel inadequate. You are not walking alone. You are not walking unloved. You are walking under the pleasure of God. And that reality has the power to transform everything within you and around you, shaping your steps, renewing your mind, and anchoring your heart in a confidence that does not fade because it flows from the eternal goodness and unwavering faithfulness of God. There is a deeper dimension to God's happiness with you that many never explore, and it is this: God's pleasure is not passive, it is active, intentional, and powerful. When God is happy with you, His favor begins to arrange circumstances in ways you never orchestrate on your own. Doors you were never strong enough to open begin to loosen. Resistance you could not overcome begins to weaken. Not because you suddenly became mighty, but because God's pleasure carries authority. When God delights in a person, unseen forces begin to align quietly, patiently, precisely. You must understand that God's happiness with you today is not an emotion that rises and falls. It is a settled disposition of love. God is not reacting to you. God is committed to you. This means that even when your emotions fluctuate, even when your confidence wavers, even when your faith feels stretched thin, God's pleasure remains steady. God is not unstable. God does not change His mind about you every time you struggle. His joy over you is anchored in His eternal purpose. There are moments in life when silence surrounds you. You pray, but answers seem delayed. You act with integrity, but results appear slow. In those moments, many assume God is distant or displeased. But hear this truth with clarity: silence does not mean disapproval. Waiting does not mean rejection. Delay does not mean denial. Often, God's happiness with you is working quietly beneath the surface, strengthening your character, refining your discernment, and preparing you to carry what is coming without being crushed by it. God is happy with you today because He sees who you are becoming, not just who you have been. God does not define you by your worst moments. God defines you by His intention. Even when you are unaware of it, God is shaping your inner life, expanding your capacity for wisdom, patience, humility, and strength. And every time you choose truth over convenience, sincerity over pretense, and faith over fear, God's joy deepens. There is a sacred confidence that begins to rise in a person who truly believes that God is pleased with them. This confidence is not arrogance. It is not pride. It is calm assurance. It allows you to stand firm without hostility, to speak truth without cruelty, to move forward without desperation. When you know God is happy with you, you no longer need to manipulate outcomes. You trust timing. You trust process. You trust that God's hand is at work even when your eyes cannot see it. God's happiness with you today is also an invitation to alignment. God delights in you, and from that delight flows guidance. When God is pleased, He also instructs, not harshly, not forcefully, but gently, clearly, persistently. He nudges your conscience. He sharpens your discernment. He redirects your steps when necessary. This is not correction rooted in anger. It is guidance rooted in love. God leads those He delights in. Some people fear surrender because they think it means losing themselves. But surrender to God, especially when you know He is pleased with you, is not loss. It is liberation. When you release control, you are not falling into emptiness. You are resting in trust. God's happiness with you ensures that surrender will never humiliate you. It will refine you. It will protect you from paths that glitter but destroy. It will position you where growth is inevitable. God is happy with you today because you are learning dependence. Self-reliance may look strong, but it fractures under pressure. Dependence on God builds resilience that endures. When you acknowledge your limits and lean on God's wisdom, you honor Him, and that humility brings Him joy. God is not impressed by self-sufficiency. God delights in trust. There is also a responsibility that comes with knowing God is happy with you. It is the responsibility to live awake, not careless, not distracted, but conscious of your words, conscious of your choices, conscious of the impact your life has on others. God's pleasure is not permission to drift, it is empowerment to live intentionally. When you walk knowing God is pleased, you become more attentive, more compassionate, more disciplined. God's happiness with you today is shaping how He answers your prayers. When your heart is aligned with His will, your prayers mature. They become less about escape and more about purpose, less about fear and more about trust, less about control and more about wisdom. God listens closely to a heart that rests in His pleasure, because that heart is learning to ask for what truly matters. Even your struggles serve a purpose under God's delight. They are not wasted. They are not meaningless. God uses them to deepen your understanding, soften your spirit, and strengthen your resolve. The very things that once made you question yourself will one day become sources of insight and compassion for others. God's happiness with you today includes confidence in how He will redeem every chapter of your story. When doubt tries to return, remind yourself of this truth. God's pleasure is not something you imagine, it is something you receive. You do not have to manufacture it. You do not have to earn it again tomorrow. You simply have to remain open to it. Let it inform your thoughts. Let it quiet your fears. Let it steady your emotions. God is happy with you today, because His mercy is active in your life. Mercy is not weakness, it is strength under control. It is God choosing restoration over destruction, patience over punishment, guidance over abandonment. Every time God extends mercy, it reveals His joy in seeing you grow rather than be crushed. As you move forward, carry yourself as one who is favored, not fearful. Let your posture reflect trust. Let your decisions reflect wisdom. Let your inner dialogue reflect truth. You are not walking under scrutiny. You are walking under care. God's eyes upon you are not eyes of suspicion, but eyes of love. God's happiness with you today is a covering. It shields your heart from despair. It guards your mind against lies. It anchors your soul when uncertainty rises. This covering does not remove challenges, but it ensures you will not face them alone or unprepared. Allow this understanding to reshape how you see yourself. You are not defined by your lowest moments. You are not trapped by your past. You are not limited by the opinions of others. You are seen, known, and valued by God. His happiness with you is not shallow approval. It is deep commitment. As you continue on your path, remember that every step taken in sincerity matters. Every choice toward integrity matters. Every moment of patience matters. God is attentive to your journey, and His joy over you is steady, intentional, and enduring, flowing from His eternal nature into your present reality, strengthening your spirit, guiding your steps, and surrounding your life with the peace and confidence that rise not from circumstances, but from the unchanging pleasure of God. There is a moment when the soul finally understands that God's happiness with you is not fragile approval, but enduring confidence. God is not watching you nervously, wondering if you will fail again. God already knows your weaknesses, and yet His joy remains. That means His happiness is rooted in knowledge, not illusion. He knows your struggles in detail, your thoughts before you speak them, your fears before you name them, and still He is pleased. That kind of happiness is not shallow, it is powerful. When God is happy with you, He entrusts you with growth. He allows you to walk through situations that stretch you, not to expose you, but to expand you. Difficulty does not mean God has withdrawn His pleasure. Often it means He trusts you enough to refine you. Just as pressure reveals strength, challenges reveal what God has already placed inside you. God's happiness is not proven by ease, but by endurance. Many people misunderstand God's guidance because they expect it to always feel comfortable. But God's pleasure does not always lead you into comfort. It leads you into purpose. There are times when God's happiness with you will draw you into responsibility, into courage, into difficult obedience, not to burden you, but to elevate you. God does not place weight on those He does not trust. If you are being called higher, it is because God believes in what He is shaping within you. God is happy with you today because your conscience is alive. A hardened heart does not feel conviction. A distant soul does not wrestle with truth. The fact that you reflect, question, and seek alignment is evidence that God is at work within you. Sensitivity to truth is not weakness, it is spiritual health. God delights in a heart hat remains teachable. There are seasons when God's happiness with you expresses itself through correction, not condemnation, not humiliation, but clarity. God corrects not to shame, but to protect. When He redirects you, it is because He sees consequences you cannot yet see. His happiness with you means He will not leave you wandering in paths that harm your future. Guidance is a form of care, and care flows from delight. God's pleasure also reshapes how you view time. You stop rushing. You stop panicking when things do not happen immediately. You begin to understand that timing is not delay, it is design. God is never late and He is never careless. When God is happy with you, He teaches you patience, not passive waiting, but active trust. You learn to prepare while you wait, to grow while you pause, to listen while you stand still. God is happy with you today because you are learning restraint. Strength is not only shown in action, it is revealed in self-control. When you choose silence over retaliation, wisdom over impulse, integrity over advantage, God is pleased. These quiet victories matter deeply to Him. They shape your character in ways no public success ever could. You must also understand that God's happiness with you influences how He uses you to bless others. When God delights in a person, their presence becomes a source of peace. Their words carry weight. Their actions reflect consistency. Without effort, they begin to bring calm where there is chaos, hope where there is discouragement, clarity where there is confusion. God's pleasure resting on you is not meant to end with you. It flows through you. God is happy with you because you are learning to listen. And more than you speak, to observe more than you assume, to respond rather than react. Wisdom grows in stillness. Discernment develops in reflection. God's happiness with you today includes joy in seeing you mature emotionally and spiritually, becoming less controlled by impulses and more guided by truth. There will be moments when you feel misunderstood, moments when your intentions are questioned, moments when your sincerity is doubted. In those moments, remember this: human misunderstanding does not cancel divine approval. God knows your heart. God sees your motives. God understands your journey. His happiness with you is not shaken by misinterpretation. God is also happy with you today because you are learning gratitude. Gratitude shifts perspective. It turns what you have into enough and what you face into opportunity. When you thank God, even in uncertainty, you acknowledge His sovereignty. That acknowledgement brings Him joy. Gratitude is not denial of difficulty. It is recognition of God's presence within it. As your awareness of God's happiness deepens, your inner dialogue begins to change. You stop speaking to yourself with cruelty. You stop rehearsing failure. You stop expecting rejection. Instead, you begin to speak with honesty, patience, and hope. God's pleasure renews the way you think, and renewed thinking leads to transformed living. God is happy with you today because your faith is becoming rooted, not reactive. You are no longer moved entirely by circumstances. You are learning stability. Storms may still come, but they do not define you. Pressure may still rise, but it does not break you. God delights in resilience that is built on trust rather than fear. Even your unanswered questions do not disturb God. He is not threatened by your curiosity. He is not offended by your seeking. God's happiness with you includes joy in your pursuit of understanding. Truth is not afraid of examination. When you seek sincerely, God guides patiently. Let this understanding anchor you when emotions fluctuate, feelings change, circumstances shift, but God's pleasure remains constant. You do not need to constantly check whether you are still accepted. You are. You do not need to fear sudden rejection. God is faithful. His happiness with you today is not temporary approval, it is covenant care. God's delight in you empowers you to face the future without anxiety. You do not need to know every detail. You do not need full visibility. You only need trust. When God is happy with you, uncertainty becomes manageable because you know who holds tomorrow. Carry this truth quietly, but firmly within you. Let it shape how you work, how you rest, how you speak, how you decide. You are not striving to earn God's pleasure, you are living from it. And as you continue forward, step by step, with humility and courage, God's happiness with you remains a steady light, guiding your path, strengthening your resolve, and sustaining your soul in every season of your journey with God. Now let this truth descend from your mind into the deepest place of your soul. God is very happy with you today, and that reality demands a response, not a shallow emotion, not a passing feeling, a response of the heart. This is the moment to stop living as though you are merely surviving and begin living as one who is seen, guided, and cherished by God. Examine your life honestly, not with condemnation, but with courage. Look at where fear has replaced trust, where distraction has weakened devotion, where comfort has silenced purpose. God's happiness with you is not meant to leave you unchanged. It is meant to awaken you. Stand before God with humility and strength, and let your inner life realign. Release what no longer reflects truth. Lay down habits that dull your awareness. Step away from voices that feed doubt and shrink your vision. Choose integrity when compromise looks easier. Choose patience when haste tempts you. Choose faith when uncertainty presses in. This is your call to renew your purpose, not by striving harder, but by returning deeper. God is not asking for perfection. God is asking for presence. Be present in your choices. Be present in your words. Be present before God with sincerity. Let your walk from this moment forward be intentional. Wake each day conscious that God's pleasure surrounds you. Let that awareness shape how you treat others, how you respond to pressure, how you steward your time, how you guard your thoughts. Walk closer to God, not out of fear of losing approval, but out of gratitude for having it. Let obedience flow from love. Let discipline rise from devotion. Let courage be born from trust. If you have grown distant, return. If you have grown weary, rest in God's care. If you have grown uncertain, stand still and listen. God's happiness with you is an open door, and it is before you now. Step through it with faith. Live awake. Live aligned. Live with a heart that seeks truth and a spirit that remains teachable. Carry this message into every place you go. When doubt whispers, answer with trust. When weakness appears, respond with reliance on God. When fear tries to claim authority, stand firm in the knowledge that you are held. Let your life become a quiet testimony of confidence rooted in God's pleasure. And as you move forward, let this final truth anchor you beyond emotion and beyond circumstance. You are not walking toward God's happiness. You are walking within it. And that awareness has the power to renew your purpose, steady your steps, strengthen your soul, and draw you closer to God with every breath you take.